Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky. And we're back this week with a You on Joe. I always love the You on Joe episodes. I want to do more of them. This week, we're revisited by a great friend of the show, Dan Klingensmith. And last time he was here, we talked about Mutt. This time, we're talking about Firefly, the elusive, sometimes ninja, always dangerous, fan favorite, Firefly. But we're also talking a lot about Dan's project, which is Creating G.I. Joe. So for you new listeners, welcome aboard. This is the podcast where we've covered all the Sunbow episodes, all the extreme DIC, and I've talked about pretty much all the Marvel comic G.I. Joes. We've been working our way through the Blackthorn Publishing. As I said last week, I was not able to find G.I. Joe 3D, 4, 5, and 6 yet. Listen, they're in my stacks. If you saw my comics, you'd know that it's actually, I usually keep them pretty clean, pretty neat, pretty where I can find everything. So I'm actually quite surprised I can't find these 3 books, even though I have a lot of them. So we're going to get back to that. So we got Dan this week. I want to thank everyone for reaching out on social media, saying hi. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com if you want to be a guest for Joe on Joe. If you want to do a You on Joe for yourself, would love to have you. Do you have a favorite G.I. Joe character? Could be an episode of the show. I haven't really done a watch long episode in a long time. Anything really specific. The more specific, the better. Let's talk about it. It's really easy. We get on Zoom and we knock it out. We also have a Patreon. If you want to help support the show, please feel free to go there. Patreon.com/JoeandJoePod. And always support our wonderful sponsors, the Movies in a Meal podcast.
In the beginning of time, the smallest organism gained sentience and thought to itself, I really need a good meal. Then, a bunch of other stuff happened, and finally the Lumiere brothers started showing movies in France. This was all the inspiration that fellow broadcasters Brad, Keith, and Ben needed to combine these two primal needs into the Movies in a Meal podcast. The Movies in a Meal is one of the most casual and relaxing film talk podcasts you could ever listen to. These 3 friends enjoy a good meal together while talking all about the movies. And not just reviews. They do favorite lists, comparison discussions, genre talks, anything and everything that you can think of. They've even broken their solemn promise inherent in the name and branched out into TV talk. So I love the variety of films they bring to the table. They cover new releases, classics, cult films, often in one episode. It's really a delight to listen to, and it has something for every movie fan out there to enjoy. So if you're looking to grow your podcast library, if you eat meals, and if you've ever seen a movie, then you should give Ben, Keith, and Brad a listen and subscribe to the Movies in a Meal podcast. They've been a great sponsor to this show. I love the Movies in a Meal podcast, and I'd like all of you to love them too.
And I'm saying Movies in a Meal now more than ever because listeners this week, they announced, I'm sure most of you saw this already, G.I. Joe versus, well, I guess Transformers probably would come first to the name, but G.I. Joe Transformers official crossover in the movies. I know we were teased it in the last Transformers movie, but it was actually officially announced at one of those big press circuits that it's been greenlit. So we'll see. There's a lot of distance between here and there as far as getting a movie. As far as I've seen, there's no real details on it. Just that they've said that they're doing a G.I. Joe Transformers movie. So who knows what'll happen. Man, 4th time's the charm, I hope, for our guys. Because, while there certainly were some bright spots I think in each of the G.I. Joe live action iterations. And that's a discussion for another time, one we've had a little bit already. But, I hope they figure it out. I think they can. I think there's a world for it. I'm skeptical, but I'm not hating on it. I think they're onto something with treating the Transformers a little closer to the really leaning into the G1 as far as like looks and vibes. Bumblebee I thought was fantastic. And then the Beast Wars I didn't hate. My biggest issue with the Beast Wars movie, or Beast Machines, or Beast, whatever, the last one, which nobody I think saw. The biggest thing with that was like every plot for every Transformers movie is always the same. There's a giant world-eating thing coming to get you, and they have to stop it to literally save the planet. I'm like, you could still do smaller stakes and have it be a good movie. It doesn't have to be something from outer space is going to eat Earth. Because I think we've seen that every single Transformers movie. So, like, I just hope that they don't repeat that, because that's the part that's super, super boring. The rest of the stuff is, fun. And I'm not a super big Transformers guy, so I'm not super beholden to how they treated certain characters, but I will be with G.I. Joe. Anyway, I hope that they figure out a way to do it so that, yes, it's big global stakes, but it's not just a rehash of every other Transformers kind of vehicle with a bunch of Joes slammed in there. You know what I mean? I hope that the plot is integral to G.I. Joe. I got to imagine they'll follow something similar to what they're doing in the comics with the Energon universe, things like that. So anyway, yeah. So movies in the mill, I'm sure we'll be talking about G.I. Joe Transformers at one point. So give them a listen. And now let's sit back for Dan Klingensmith. Dan is the creator of Creating G.I. Joe. If you're not familiar with that book, you should be. He's running a Kickstarter right now. There's probably about a week left by the time you hear this. And it's for volumes 14 and 15 of his excellent, excellent companion piece he's been working on for the last decade or so. It is all the great behind the scenes artwork and unproduced figures and everything. It's actually a really nice companion piece to the that massive Art of G.I. Joe book that we've been talking about for a few months. His Creating G.I. Joe really gets into the actual nitty gritty of this is the artwork behind making it. It's a very nice project that he's putting together. Really, really works well. It looks great, and it works well to build this universe of what was going on behind the scenes. You can always go to creatinggijoe.com to see his homepage and kind of see what these books are all about. The last 2 volumes are all about uncreated, I almost said unpublished, uncreated, unfinished designs. So if you're one of those people who like to see kind of what could have been, these 2 volumes make really, really a great resource for you. We'll talk about that on this episode today. So go to Kickstarter, do a search for Creating G.I. Joe, as you hear on the podcast. You have to do creating space G.I. Joe, G.I. space Joe, or space Joe. It's a little awkward with their searching algorithms. Kickstarter, they don't recognize it if you just punch it in. So it's there. Look for it. He's got a lot of tiers where you can actually get the full volumes of all the books that he's published. He's trying to get a slipcase together. So if you've been with him all along, it's a really nice project. So give it a listen. We're going to talk Firefly. I love Firefly. You love Firefly. So let's go into our conversation with Dan Klingensmith from the Creating G.I. Joe books. So, Dan, how many volumes do you actually anticipate doing for Creating G.I. Joe?
This is it.
This is
14,
it?
15. This is it. Yep. That's why it's going to be all unreleased concepts, because the prior 13, it runs through 82 to 94. Then I do share some unproduced concepts, sprinkle them in each volume. But yeah, this is it. So this is the chance to pick them all up at once and, kind of get the whole set. But,
well, explain that. So, listeners, if you've not yet dipped your toe into Creating G.I. Joe, this Kickstarter ends on, as of this recording, 13 days to go. So it's the 28th of April. Mm-hmm. And as Kickstarter says, it's all or nothing. The project will only be funded if it reaches its goal by Sunday, April 28th. And so is there a tier to give me all the other volumes? Or is that an add-on you can do, or how does that work?
No, I have a bundle set. So it's 1 through 15, all of them for $5.25. Can you hear the dogs?
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, dogs are always welcome on this show. As any longtime listener knows. We've got 2 frequent guest stars.
Okay. But yeah, $525 for all 15.
That's a steal.
Is the bundle deal right now.
What if listeners have partial ones? Is there a way to pick and choose, or is it the bundle, or just these 14 and 15?
Throughout the Kickstarter, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the different tiers, you have the first tier, which is just one copy of 14 and 15 each. And then I have one copy of volumes 14 and 15. And then I also sell prints. So if there's a favorite character, like maybe the character we're talking about today, if you like that print, it's 11 by 17. If you want to frame it, put your little Joe in there with it, you can do that, kind of like display it, kind of cool.
Fun.
So I do have different tiers with prints availability. I also created one where you get both volumes 14 and 15 and the Night Force card backs from the last Kickstarters. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but I can talk a little bit more about that in a minute if you like.
Sure.
And then there's 2 prints, 3 prints, 4 prints, 5 prints. And then if you want 2 copies of 14 and 15, sometimes people like internationally will buy them for them and a friend or whatnot, save on shipping.
Well, they want 2 copies because they want one to certainly use and peruse, and the other one
keep it sealed.
Yeah, well, no, they cut out the pages and they mail them like death threats to various Hasbro offices. Like you could have done this. How dare you? I'm joking. Don't do that. That's a terrible thing to joke about in this day and age.
Collectability, right? Collectability.
Yeah, total collectability. I'm excited that it's all unreleased stuff. That's always fascinating to me.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Now, did you
looking
find
through these for people?
Did you find that was? It's maybe a self-answered question, but was that harder to collect the material on, or like what, or were there sources that were just like, here literally is everything we've never made, and you were able to just kind of collate it all together?
I'd say is a combo, because it was kind of a collection that came through just over time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, throughout this book series, as I shared, I share out a couple unproduced concepts throughout the books. And so when I got to the number 13, I'm like, well, there's all these unproduced concepts that nobody's ever seen, or maybe they've seen very little of them, right? So I'm like, well, I want to get these out as well. And so, so some of this stuff I'd had for a while. Others, I had some contributors who provided some artwork and stuff, and some photographs of stuff that I could put in. And then just even, I'd say now 3 weeks ago, sorry, my son just threw something at me. 3 weeks ago, I'd say somebody had gone digging and found Ninja Commando, the Battlecore Rangers, as well as replicator art. So all these unproduced concepts that I already had most of the pages built, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
And well, because of this new artwork, some of those pages went beyond 2 pages or 1 page. And the only 3-pager I think is Duke and then Dr. Mindbender, which, by the way, the Dr. Mindbender unreleased Battlecore Rangers art is beautiful.
Is it
so
really?
I just can't wait to get that out. It's phenomenal.
Does he have a shirt?
He does.
Oh,
he does. He has armor.
Well, that says a lot, though. If he's still beautiful and has a shirt, he's covering up those sweet pectorals. If that's the case, then that really must be a good looking action figure.
Yeah, he's looking good. I mean, it's just I don't know if you've seen it, but a lot of people have seen the package art and what was intended for package art, but not many people had seen the just preliminaries.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's got a clawed hand now. He has armor on. He has a very cool mask. Yeah, it's a very interesting. Like I said, I mean, some people have seen the painted copy or the painted version of him,
mm-hmm.
and some of the resins. I've sold one of the resins in the past for a former employee. But you get to see the sculpture sheet, you get to see the color study, you get to see the weapons that he's supposed to come with, the helmet, and then some preliminary art as well of him, which I'm looking at one, and he does have a shirt still. So
Fail.
he's in full armor now and gear. So if you're a fan of the topless Dr. Mindbender, you are at a loss. I'm sorry.
Now, I forgot when last time we had you on, I know we went into a lot of detail on this, but I forgot if I asked you, do you cover any of the reasons why they weren't produced? Like, were you able to glean any of that, or is that just lost to time? And we can assume budget or the line got cut or so on and so forth?
Depends on the vehicle and depends on the figure. A lot of the stuff. So volume 14 is going to be so. Kind of a little backstory. When I started working on quote unquote these books, I was just building out pages. I was not limiting myself to how many pages. And so normally the books are about 80 pages each. Well, come to find out I'm like 140, 150 pages now. I'm like, oh crap, like I got a lot more than 80 pages here, so I need to figure this out. So I was gonna maybe just do a big book. Just combine them all, do one giant one. But then the fans spoke. They're like, well, we want consistency. We want to keep it, the same, approximately the same width as the others. And so these ones will be a little bit bigger. I think 96 pages, I think, is volume 14. 97, I think, is 15. Don't quote me on that, but somewhere around there. So they'll be a little bit thicker, but not noticeable to the eye, most likely. So what happened was when people said, well, we'd rather have it broken into books, I had to kind of contemplate, how do I want to display this now? Because up until the past series, it's in chronological order, 82 to 94 per book ish, right? So it's not, your typical chronological, but in every book, it went from 82 to 94. These ones are going to be labeled by alphabetically as best as possible by designer. And so I had to figure out something. So what I did is number 14, I would classify as things that came really close to fruition. So your Battle Corps Rangers, your Ninja Commanders, your Replicators, a couple vehicles. So to answer your question, some of this stuff was canceled due to the line being canceled, essentially. Others, cost factors. Some just mostly is probably cost that got involved. Like the G.I. Joe train, for example, never got made. So a lot of that had to do with cost. And then a couple other vehicles and concepts that just, they looked it over and were like, this isn't going to go far. Now, most of that's probably in volume 15, because that's going to be featuring a lot of stuff very early in the stages. Like it didn't get very far, let's just say. Okay. And that could either be due to interest, cost, maybe, depending on what it was. And then also, just marketing's involvement, because I know Kirk Bazigian was editing. He's like, yeah, I can understand why we didn't choose some of these. So that just goes to tell you, some of the input was there. Like, yeah, we're not gonna, like the Calvary series. Even Ron didn't even want to do that one. So you'll see that. That's an interesting piece of art on there in volume 15. So it's a long answer, but hopefully it makes sense.
It's the right answer, though. I love it. And the devil's in the details. Well, you mentioned, so it's the end of the road. You're at 15. I do see that on the Kickstarter page, which, ladies and gentlemen, if you've not backed it yet, go to Kickstarter.com. And we were discussing this before we got on the air. Search engines can be fickle. Creating G.I. Joe. We were finding differing results with just G.I. Joe, creating G.I. Joe. It was hard to pull up. So creating space G.I. Joe. You should be able to find it pretty easily. I say that easily. Follow those instructions. And you'll see it. You've got about 10 more days to go. 13? Yeah, about 10 more days. 13 days to go. Get in there, check it out. And one of your stretch goals is a slipcase to hold all 15 volumes of the book. What's going on with that?
So that is in the works. Been working with my printer who does the books primarily. I did actually venture out this weekend to another printer that I'd used prior, because I did a slipcase after volume 4. And so at the time when I checked with them a couple years ago, they kind of changed. It was during COVID and all that. So they changed their minimum quantity. It was like well over what I needed. And so because originally I was going to do another slipcase at volume 8, but then not knowing where the series is going to end, I just thought it'd be kind of goofy to do. Let's say it was 13. You'd have 3 slipcases and then one loose book just out in La La Land.
Right.
So I figured it's best just to wait at this point when I did number 8. And so I've been pricing different things. My printer made a couple mock-ups. These, the books themselves when you get all 15 together, it's about 15 pounds. I mean, they're not light when you put them all together. And so, with that being said, the first slipcase was too thin. The second slipcase, I gave a mock-up of the one I had done prior, which is a little bit thicker. And again, just I wasn't thrilled with it. So then we're looking into like a hard card stock, similar to like a DVD case, like the harder ones. And with that, that's a lot more expensive. So when you go because it's all about the printing and how they're printing it. So the thinner slipcases can be done digitally, he said. The other one has to go to press. Yeah. So it's a significant cost to do that. After numerous conversations and talking to different people, I was like, all right, I'm just going to go with the thicker case. Like, it's going to be really expensive, but I think people will be happy. Mm-hmm. And then I got a mix of results online. So we were like, well, I'd be okay if it's broken up into 3 separate slipcases. Mm-hmm. So now that's on the table. So I'm between the really expensive cardboard, harder cardboard to hold all 15, or the option of doing just 3 different slipcases, or maybe the same slipcase 3 times. I don't know. I haven't decided there. Mm-hmm. So I'm price quoting both of those options at this moment to see where it falls.
15 volumes wide seems to be a lot.
Yeah, it's about 4.5 inches wide. So they're 9 by 10, and then you get 4.5 inches wide when they're placed in there. So the first mock-up, I have all 15. Well, I have the 13 in there, and then I have 2 extras.
That holds all just 4.5 inches? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not as terrible.
Now, each book's about 1/4 of an inch thick.
Got it.
Is kind of what I find.
I think of just a terrible relationship with spatial distances.
But the challenge is
in my head, I'm like, that's like 15 inches across. What is happening? No.
Yeah.
4.5 inches. No, 4.5 inches. Yeah. That's
it's doable.
Totally doable.
Yeah. So I want to make something sturdy enough to, hold them. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, to make it cost effective. And if people are okay with 3, I mean, I don't care. I mean, I'm happy just slipcases, period.
Yeah, they look good on a shelf for sure.
So I mean, if it's 3, I mean, I was thinking I can go beyond if I wanted to, which I don't think it would do it, but do 3 slipcases that slide into another slipcase, the harder shell one. I mean, if we want to go nuts, we could do that.
The Russian nesting doll of slipcases.
There you go. So I don't think it's going to happen, but so that's where I'm at. I mean, I'd like to get it announced sooner than later, of course.
Yeah, sure.
But I want to have a realistic goal. So if I'm going to go with the hard one, it's going to be much more expensive than I think these other type, or if I do the 3. So I'm waiting for my printer to give me a quote on a 3. Hopefully by tomorrow. I got another printer that gave me a quote today. It's much more affordable, I think. And I think it could, be more attainable because the harder shell one's another 15,000 or so.
Oh, listeners! By the time you're hearing this, the answer may be up on the Kickstarter page.
Yeah.
So go to Kickstarter.com, search for Creating Space G I Space Joe or you can always go to creatinggijoe.com. No spaces, no periods there. It's just straight up creatinggijoe.com. And check out Dan's whole website. He's got everything listed there. You can certainly buy books directly from him there to fill in those blanks. Unproduced Night Force, Lightfoot, and Blaster card backs. What? You can get those. You can get all kinds of great stuff there. So go and check that out. And now it's time, Dan, to talk about. I mean, we can. I don't think it's a stretch to call him the Boba Fett of the G.I. Joe universe.
No, I agree.
Firefly, the Cobra Saboteur.
Such an awesome character.
Such a great character. Released in 1984. He looked like a ninja, was not a ninja, then he became a ninja. And then I feel like he's no longer a ninja. And we all have our preferences as to how we like him. But much like Boba Fett, I would say, for a long, long time, very underused. Uh-huh. Very underused. Mysterious, deadly, looks amazing, looks menacing, does not in any way, shape, or form look like a good guy. And made an impact on all of us. So much so that there are, and this is as of 2015, so I'm looking at yojo.com. I don't know how many they've made in the following 9 years. I'm sure plenty more. 28 versions of Firefly exist.
Jeez.
In the 3 3/4 line. 28 versions of Firefly. Dan, what about Firefly sings to you? When did you first encounter him? What's your history with Firefly?
Well, not all 28. Jeez, I didn't realize I had that many.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts when they got post 94. Yeah, to your point, I mean, he's just always so cool and ninja-esque. And as a kid, I really didn't have him as a kid. You know, I think when I got into Joe, it was a little bit later, 84, 85. I think I shared before, you know, Mutton Junkyard and Flint and Frostbite were my first 3 figures. So I think I missed out the opportunity to get him as a kid. But either way, I mean, I always loved him in the cartoon as a kid, even though he wasn't featured very often, but definitely fell in love with him there. But to your point, I always liked the ninjas. He looked like a ninja. So in my brain, he was a ninja. And then as I got older and then, you know, having the opportunity to get him when I was older, just fell in love with him even more. And so it's just such a elusive character, like you said, like a Boba Fett. He's quiet. You know, that painting on the card art. I mean, it's like the dude sneaking in your backyard.
Oh yeah,
you know, coming to get you. So that painting. I mean, I know some people critique the backpack and all that, but again, is marketing reasons. I can see why.
Oh, the critique that it would be open, showing what's in there.
Like just the angle of it and stuff like that. Some people
stop it!
Out.
Stop it!
And even where he's holding the gun. I mean, I'm just pointing out critiques. As some people
is true. I would say that is true.
But, so there's some critiques there.
But he's clearly clear. I say no on the backpack. That you got to show what's inside, because especially at the time, an opening backpack like that. I know Destro had the empty one, you know, but an opening backpack that actually still had play. You know, like actually had what am I trying to say? Like texture to it.
Mm-hmm,
That's huge. That's huge. You know, Destro was just an empty shell. Put his gun in.
Yeah, exactly.
We had gotten Zartan that was molded for his face, and then Firefly, right? I don't think anyone else at that point had any
like detail on
loadable.
No, and originally that backpack was slotted to have hinged lid. So instead of having the lid that, you know, we probably all lost as a kid, it's supposed to have a hinged, you know, lid that came down actually originally.
So it's got to be impossible to find. Like that's got to be a very expensive piece, right? I would think, the cover. Yeah.
I mean, the cover I think went in pretty like it stuck pretty well, I think, into the backpack. But if you're a kid, it's a different story.
Well,
as a collector, it'll be fine.
I'm going to come clean here. Never had them, still don't have them.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
okay.
I never had, just like Boba Fett. I never had Boba Fett as a kid, even though I liked him. Never got him, and I never had Firefly, and I like him, and I keep an eye out for him at every show, and I try to find a nice one that I like. I almost bought one a couple years ago, and then I realized it was on a dupe card.
Oh, like a repro?
Yeah, repro card. Yeah, that's the word I'm trying to reach. And so I was just like, I'll pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's one of those figures.
Yeah, he's great. And I always loved him. He was awesome in the comic book. That's really primarily where I was encountering him. Deadly, but then really underused, just like Boba Fett. Until you get to the shoehorning him into the origins of Snake Eyes.
Yeah, which I know, you know, I did back in 2005 when I was creating my own character, and I was having one of the former designers actually, I forget, he was selling some stuff, I think, on eBay, so I kind of came across him that way. And I asked if he did a commission and stuff, and he's like, yeah, I can do a commission. And so I had this ninja mindset, like, ooh, I want this ninja character and blah, blah, blah. So I ended up having him design it, but I gave a backstory to it. And it turns out, like, I was reading through the comics, and I was trying to connect all the dots and stuff like that. And essentially, he's Firefly's son, I believe I made him. So I think I made Firefly the brother-in-law to Cobra Commander. So I made Firefly married Cobra Commander's sister, and then the son was Firefly's son, if I recall off the top of my
So
head.
Cobra Commander's nephew.
Cobra Commander's nephew, exactly.
Interesting.
So kind of played it up on that.
I love it.
But yeah, the original deco, the camo, the gray. The later one, which I'm sure we'll talk about as well.
Yeah.
It's taken a little bit more time to warm up to, but definitely still pretty cool looking.
Different. It's different. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's different. Yeah. We'll stay on this one for a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
The full body thing is great. The full mask is that? Let me look. Is that Storm Shadow's head? Or is that
The mold, you mean?
Yeah, the mold. Yeah, or is that his own mold? No,
I think it's his own mold.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, because I mean that you could see them taking a little shortcut there.
Well, yeah,
but they didn't though, so that's even better. I love that.
I think it's just the normal eyes that kind of maybe throw people off because they had that like technique of doing the eyes back then.
Right. Yeah. The backpack's great. Now, what's funny about the backpack is, and this is something I never noticed when I was a child, or when I was younger even. And I was somewhat aware of this product as a kid, but it wasn't really, I don't know when I knew had it. I didn't really see it a lot, but it's the G.I. Joe toolkit. It's the Saboteur toolkit. It is so great because it's not, it's not a 1-to-1, but it mirrors what he's carrying around on the cover of that, on his file card. Absolutely fantastic. Do you own this? Do you know anyone that owns this? This is great, and listeners, it is a toolkit with looks like functional tools. Are they cheap? I can't tell. Are they just all plastic fake tools?
I think they're all plastic. I don't have it. I've looked for it. The toolkit you're talking about, yeah. So I've wanted it. It's one of those things it's out there. If I see it at a show, maybe I'll pick it up and stuff. But I'm not actively like hunting it down per se.
Yeah. It's really cool.
But yeah.
It looks like his backpack, though.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're doing cosplay.
Exactly.
Has anyone... So, listeners, you're great at this stuff. If you've ever seen anyone cosplaying as Firefly and they use this as their backpack, because I've seen a lot of, Firefly cosplays and stuff, but if they've specifically used the Saboteur toolkit, I really want to see that.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Even the voice in the cartoon was awesome. Like that deep. Do you remember his voice?
I'm trying to picture it.
I mean, again, I was a cartoon kid, so
me too.
Yeah, that's kind of how I got introduced to these guys. A lot of them. Cartoon and toy. I didn't really get into comics till later, but yeah, I just remember him like having like this raspy, kind of deep voice.
Which is a great choice because that leads to the, like someone who's maybe been scarred up by some of the explosions, which is what they leaned into when they used him in the movie. The late great Ray Stevenson played him in Rise of Cobra. I think to great effect. He was probably the best part about that movie.
Yeah. They killed him, but yeah.
Yeah, sure. You can always come back. You just want more explosion to survive. He was featured in the Commodore 64 game. He was in Commando Attack, which was a fabulous board game that I played. Commodore 64 computer game, not board game. The 64 computer game. Commando Attack was the board game.
That's a great game.
Oh, it's a great game.
Did you used to replace the cardboard with the figures?
I did both, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, depending on how intricate I wanted to get, for sure. I used that as we had to do a craft project at school, something about books. I think it was Mark Twain. And I used that as the surface for my Mark Twain board game.
Oh, wow.
That's cool. And like Huck Finn would go into the prison camp. It was the rules of the Commando Attack game because I just wanted to play Commando Attack. But having to do with Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer. Yeah. Oh, better times. They also made of this version they made, he was part of that bust. Is it the Palisades?
Yeah, I wish they would have done his full arm.
Yeah, it does look a little weird, but that's a bust. That's what you get.
Yeah,
you get cut off like that.
Didn't they do a black one of him too? I think they did a black version of him.
Well, he looks great. I have a lot of those. I don't have him though.
No.
That whole line was really nice. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, Palisades did a good job. And I still have a lot of them, and that's the problem. It's like I don't display them anymore. I used to take them to work and display them back in the day, and then put them away and stuff. And they're just in my Joe room and on the shelf. And I need to either pull them out. I need to probably just get rid of them and sell them, and I'll probably keep him, but sell some of the other ones I have.
I was moving apartments once, and my Storm Shadow, because he's got the bow and everything, I didn't put him back in the box because I didn't want to. I just left him on I left him on a ledge because I was coming back like the next day to get it. Well, when I had come back the next day, the old landlord had let in some cleaning crew, and they had taken Storm Shadow and just thrown him in the corner, completely smashing him, which is insane to me.
Someone was having a bad day.
Yeah, it was insane to me. So I called up the landlord screaming like, "Hey man, we weren't even moved out yet. What, So they paid me money back, and they wrote on the check for broken doll. And I was, I know, yeah. I'm like,
to make it worse.
Yeah, right. It was 100% that, because they were calling BS on it. I'm like, it's a statue, and two, it's whatever it is, it's my property. So yeah, broken doll. I'll never forget that. So 1992 rolls around, and Firefly gets shoehorned into being a ninja.
Yeah, and he became the head of the Red Ninjas, correct?
Yes, in the comic. Now, I gotta think this is because of 6 to 7 years of people thinking he was a ninja.
Yeah, I think
it's the only reason for this.
I think it's a marketing decision where it's like, well, everybody thinks he is, so let's make him one. Plus, I mean, it's cool figure.
It's okay.
Cool character, I should say, is what I meant.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I fall on the side of I don't like it at all. I didn't like it in the comic. I don't like him being involved in the, being actually, I guess technically wasn't he the actual assassin then? Or what was he? What was it with? He had something to do with the he was the student of
Zartan,
the sword maker, with the blurred.
Zartan, right?
No. What didn't they say that it turned out he was the guy who was the blurred face, and Zartan farmed it out to him or something like that. I apologize, listeners, for being spotty on this. I thought it was in my head, and now it's escaping. Yeah, it's crazy. It was.
I did a lot of research when I was doing my, like I said, did that character, and I do remember something like that. Yeah. I can't remember. I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to remember now. It's been a long time since I've read the comics. I need to get back into it and read them. But yeah, I remember. I think my character turned on him, and he found out hey, either him or I don't know. I can't
hold on.
Now.
Firefly asked Zartan for help. That's what it was. I apologize, listeners, for getting that confused.
But I think I have my character still get mad at him because he was involved.
Yeah. Cobra Commander approached Firefly to do the job, to kill Snake Eyes. So then Firefly asked Snake Eyes to do it, and then Zartan is the one who killed him, but Zartan thought he was killing Snake Eyes. So this unnecessary shoehorning in of Firefly into the process. And also, Firefly strike you as the kind of guy who would farm out a job?
No, that's interesting.
That seems weird to me.
Maybe it's the whole Snake Eyes fear thing. Maybe
yeah, or maybe he only knows how to kill people with explosives, so he knew that would be too. I don't know. Nothing about it has ever sat well with me. It doesn't sit well today.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The figure looks fine, I guess. It's
the green, I think.
Yeah, it is totally the green.
If they had done maybe a darker green, not such a bright green.
Or we throw this out there. You do camo green. Because then that makes it look more like Firefly.
Very true.
Kind of matching if you matched his underlying camo from the V1, then he's got a little bit of crossover. Right now, the only reason it's quasi looks like Firefly is because he's wearing a full face mask. Other than that, there's nothing here that says Firefly.
Yeah, I mean, the artwork for it is kind of cool. I mean, the artwork I've showed in the book. Mm-hmm. It's at a side angle, but pretty cool piece of art. And then
he had a blade launcher too that shot. that like spun out like a little top.
Yeah. So that's all, you know, the
Not
90s.
It's not. I mean, not that you would obviously you wouldn't give a kid an real explosive action, but I don't know. I'm not. I've never been a fan of this. I don't like it. Although he was the paralyzer driver in this one too, in this iteration.
Yeah, I think in the package art, you mean?
Yeah, on the package it said that he was on his file card. It said he was the paralyzer driver.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that now. I do remember that.
Yeah, like there's just I don't know. I think it's a wayward move.
That's why you have to go back to him just driving the night landing, or controlling the night landing.
That's right. He did control the night landing.
That's
was great.
A beautiful painting too.
It's really great. However, though, we could say that this was his Book of Boba Fett years.
Yeah.
Right? So you have Boba Fett, which was amazing for a long period of time, and Firefly was dope for, 8 years. And then they do Book of Boba Fett, and then everyone's like, why did you just ruin my Boba Fett? So you get Firefly. There's a V2 in 93, which actually looks better when he's in black and gold. Instead of just the gray and gold.
Yeah, I do like the black and gold better.
Yeah,
too.
black and gold definitely looks a lot better for sure. So that's that's his Book of Boba Fett years. Then that's it for the original through 95 run, and then we get to 98, and they smarten up.
I like the winter version.
It looks great. I think he looks great. This is really solid.
The next iteration I liked as well because that was part of the. He's just packaged with Undertow, right? Like that green camp. There's probably like you use brown and green, but maybe if they had done black and that green or gray and that green in '92, maybe it would have been better looking.
Yeah, he came packaged with the Cobra Polar Force, and it's just a repaint of his original figure, and it's dynamite. It's absolutely dynamite. I'm all for that. The next one we get is in 2000, or no, I'm sorry, not 2000. 2000. Is that the one you were talking about?
Yeah, like the brown and greenish.
Yeah, that's pretty good cool. Too. That's pretty solid as well. That's more like real world.
Like I could see him in the wilderness.
Yeah, that's a little. It feels a little more real. Yeah. Yeah, totally. That's great. So then they seem to have stuck without. I mean, we're not going to go through all 28 of these.
Yeah.
But they seem to have realized that the ninja, and eventually all these things do at some point, they go back and they do a ninja version, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Because everything's old as, like they touch on that era, but for the most part, they've realized that the demolition is the right way to go.
Yeah. And then, with the recent announcement of Wreckage, aka Sabretooth, which was planned, if you recall, they're going to use the Firefly mold for Sabretooth, which is going to be part of the Tiger.
No, I didn't know that. Explain to me. And sorry, wait, hold on. I'll do it. A lot of podcast hosts do. Of course, I know that. Dan, tell the listeners if they may not know what you're talking about.
That's funny. So for Tiger Force, originally slotted, was the 84 version of Firefly repainted.
Oh.
And so they gave him the name Sabretooth. I'm just trying to see.
Marvel threatened to sue.
I'm sure. But it's probably, I think what we've come to guesstimate is that probably had something to do with the molds not being available or whatnot. Mm-hmm. So they kind of went a different direction. And then in 2003, probably on Yojo, like you were saying, they ended up releasing him as part of the Tiger Force set there as Wreckage.
Okay.
So recently, this past week, Hasbro announced for the classified line the character Wreckage. Again, not using the original name. Mm-hmm. But it's an interesting take on him. He's a very interesting look of him.
Yeah, and he's coming packaged with a Tiger Force ferret.
Yes, exactly.
So then technically Wreckage is a good guy.
Yeah, Wreckage is a good guy. Is my take on it.
I missed that. I missed it because the hours were weird. Like they went early on Hasbro than they normally do for the pre-order stuff. So I missed that. by a few minutes, and then Target, we were looking all day, and it wasn't listed, and then I went on with my day, as an adult is wont to do, and then I checked on Twitter, and they were like, "Oh, it's sold out." Okay, great.
Yeah, the classified stuff, I get majority of it, but I just don't get a lot of the subset stuff.
Yeah,
So
I like it, but I am getting to the point where, like with Wreckage, I missed him. I think there was one or two other ones that I've missed recently.
yeah.
So I might just start doing, because I think I did get all of them all the way up through like 110, something like that, which is quite frankly more than I thought I would be doing when they first started.
I wasn't planning on it either.
No,
I planning on I'm just gonna get my favorites.
Yeah, my brain was going.
But I mean, but there's
$25 a piece. How deep are they going to go? I love that they're going this deep. I love it. I really do. They're great figures, but it's
getting to the point in space too.
Space,
like I just,
big time.
You go from 3 3/4 inch to 6 inch, and then you get a box, which is nice. The box can display maybe nice, but I don't know. I mean, I keep buying them, of course.
They're awesome.
I buy it.
Yeah, they're really, really great.
But
speculation on what you think the next HasLab will be for the classified stuff?
I'm trying to think. I mean, we have the Dragonfly, we got the Hiss, right? We got the Vamp, we got the Ram. I mean, I don't think they do Sky Striker.
Sky Striker's, that would be so big.
Yeah, I think it has to be mid size. Maybe a Mobat.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not motorized Mobat, but maybe. You never know, I guess.
I heard talk of some friends were banding around the idea of a Rattler. I think a Fang. I feel like a Fang is a necessity because that is such an iconic looking.
It is, but I would see that. I would see that as an open stock item. Don't you think?
Oh yeah, I guess that makes more sense.
I mean, I'm just looking at pictures right now. I could see the Rattler or the Sky Striker, which are probably the same in that sense.
Thunder Machine. Have they announced anything on Thunder Machine?
For classified?
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of.
That's your move. And you put like rocket engines and light up tailpipe for the rocket blast.
Yeah.
With, like maybe motorized or, something with the machine guns going on, some automated thing with the machine guns up front. You do a Thunder Machine, that's huge.
Maybe the Moray? That'd be kind of cool.
That's what my friend said too.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard
I mean, the original Moray itself was so big it's so big, but then and I know that the Fire or the Dragonfly was big.
Yeah.
But the Moray,
that's why I don't know.
Moray's big in that, like, blocky, just a big block of plastic sitting there. You know what I mean? Where Dragonfly was long, but there was some leanness to it, so it's kind of gives you this. It doesn't feel like it's taking up as much space. Like it's just a big blocky Moray to be this size feels excessive in all the great ways, Dan. In all the best ways.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. All of this would be amazing.
Water Moccasin be fun.
That would be great.
Killer Whale would probably be, to your point, too big.
Wow, that would be huge. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'll be interested in seeing.
My vote is for Thunder Machine.
Yeah.
I think that's such an icon. Snowcat would be amazing, too. Snowcat would be really great.
Thunder Machine.
Yeah.
I can see. I'm just looking at different pictures right now.
Pack rats. They come out and they're like HasLab is just the pack rats.
Yeah. maybe they'll do a. I'm just trying to think of popularity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Get funded, right? So, I mean, the fact that they did the ferret, I've seen people customize or 3D print the moccasin. So almost like. I almost think it can't be something that can be made easily, right?
Right.
Where the Rattler and probably the Sky Striker are in the running in my eyes, but not going to get the flag. I mean, I think you have to be very careful because it has to fund, and that's
Well, listen, they've not had trouble funding those.
No,
where Super Sevens had some issues, and I hope they figure that part out because now the deluxe lady 3-pack got canceled, which is too bad.
Yeah, I was doing some of that stuff too, but I'm cutting back because and seeing some of the stuff go on sale during the holidays,
Yeah,
I was
I
just
think
like,
I think a lot of people are in your boat.
yeah,
I
I'm
saw
like,
some real cheap
I'm
wave
just gonna
ones. Yeah,
wait. Yeah, I'm just like, I'm just gonna wait now.
yeah.
And so maybe we'll get a Missile Command Center or Viper Glider
I
or
mean,
Falcon
maybe
Glider.
I'm really excited to see what they do with the 3 3/4. You know, like because I
I'd
know
say
they announced
Mobat.
it, and I just maybe that's where they're
Oh,
going to put all their eggs. You know, with the Super Seven
Super
stuff.
7. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm interested in seeing what they look like and how they look.
Hmm.
But for classified, I'd say you can't go wrong with the Sky Striker, the um, Mobat or Rattler, or even maybe the APC. Like, can you imagine a big
I mean,
carrying a big carrying case?
that would be epic. I feel like it's not complicated enough for a HasLab, but I
True,
agree it would be epic unless they like figured out a way to make it a little more complicated. You know, a little more
true.
worth the drop because it
Well,
can't
maybe
just
like an
be. It
actual
can't.
soft top,
That would. There you go. That would be great.
something like that. If
Yeah.
you can logistically come up with the engineering of it. But
Well, back to
um,
Firefly.
yes, Match
We
Firefly.
have to say it was voiced by the great Greg Berger on Sunday.
Hmm.
So, have you ever met Greg?
I think I did at a show once. Yeah, which I thanked him, of course,
Of
for
course,
Firefly.
of
Because
course.
then, kind of going back to your story or the saber tooth real quick.
Uh huh.
So cool story. A couple years ago, I'd reached out to someone about hey, what's new, blah blah blah, and this is a gentleman's son. It wasn't even a gentleman who worked at Hasbro and stuff. But long story short, some original paintings came up, and some of these paintings, one of them was of Firefly.
Mm.
And the story goes, the reason we think these paintings existed outside, and like why weren't they painted over essentially,
Mm-hmm.
was some of the characters that were found were intended to be painted over, we think, for Tiger Force.
Mm.
So the torpedo was part of that, Firefly, Recondo, and a couple others, vehicles and stuff. And so that's kind of a cool history behind
Yeah.
that
So they were
that whole
saved.
thing.
They were saved when the
Yeah, I mean,
when the Sabretooth didn't go into action.
exactly, as well as Torpedo and some of these others, because
Interesting.
you think about it,
And it's
all those paintings like Crimson Guard. I mean, no offense, I mean Python Patrol's cool, but nothing beats that Crimson Guard painting, and the fact that it's been painted over.
criminal.
Ugh, I'm just like, come
Well,
on,
and
please.
you're sure it's because of that, not because it was like a boudoir painting of Firefly. It's like
Yeah,
a private commission.
no. So this is essentially, I think what happened was no. I think that what happened was these. I think they probably said, "Hey, you know what? We're not painting over those." So I don't know if they just never got sent back. I don't know. I don't know what happened back then, of course,
Well,
but
we have them now, and we're
we have them
happy,
now,
and we dig them.
and
How many
yep.
Fireflies are in your collection?
Well, I have a couple. Um, so I have, of course, the original. I mean, I have all the carded ones,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, so as of right now, if you're talking about Firefly in general,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, I mean, at some point I had all the way up till 2018.
Oh wow!
So
So you had
so
you have all or you had at one point all
yeah,
28.
at some point, yeah, I've sold some of my retaliation stuff, but I think I always kept Firefly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I probably have at least one of these each, carded still, or boxed, depending if it's a box set or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that I do have that. I have a couple foreign ones. Um, I think I have the Action Force one, and then I have the Japanese version, and then I think I have a Nilco, which I'm forgetting where Nilco, who did Nilco, but um, so I have a couple different foreign variations of him as well, um, in my collection itself. So
That's great.
yeah, so because I'm thinking just for space and stuff like that, I've been contemplating moving on from modern era Joe, and so
Mm-hmm.
soon I may be selling
Well,
alive,
holler if you find a nice OG one that you wanna unload, because
Okay.
I need one.
Loose or carded, you're saying?
Oh man, you know what? We'll talk. Let's talk prices. Probably loose.
Okay.
Let's be real.
Okay. I'll
But,
see if I can get a loose
Yeah,
one.
I mean,
Well,
yeah.
and I do a lot of selling for former Hasbro guys, and sometimes they do come across stuff. So,
Oh well, hey,
um,
I'm always open. You never know.
yeah. So if they have a loose one, I came across a couple card ones I sold years ago for somebody, but if there's a nice loose one, most likely it was probably like an FEP, like an engineering pilot or something like that, to where it should be in good condition.
Oh,
per
crazy,
se.
crazy.
So I'll have to keep an eye
Keep
out.
me in mind. I appreciate that, Dan.
I don't think there's anybody.
We got we got Joe shows coming up both out here in California and also in obviously the big one in Augusta. So there's always opportunities for a man like me to run across a Firefly.
Yeah, are you going to Joe Fest then?
Yeah, I'm on the fence.
Okay.
I'm
going to be in Dallas actually.
It's I don't know if I've talked about it a lot on the show, but it's just Augusta's. It's tough to get to.
Yeah.
It's a pricey trip, is I guess what I'm saying.
It is.
Yeah.
And
So,
I'll be in Dallas that weekend instead.
yeah.
So
With it not being like a hub, like directly into Atlanta, like you got to get to Atlanta, then you got to drive or whatever. And if you fly directly to Augusta, it's just a lot more. And so I got a little bit. I got some time to maneuver it, but I got a little more math to do. However, taxes are here, and who knows what'll happen with that. So
yeah, I mean Texas is a lot shorter trip. I just looked at my itinerary today, about 2.5 hours. So
yeah, I can't.
And, it should be fun. I mean, we're bringing a lot of the former Hasbro guys.
Yeah, I really do want to go. If I go, I'll absolutely announce it, and I want to meet each and every one of you listening.
Yeah.
So that's a for sure, Dan. But yeah, I'm on the fence.
No, I hear you. Yeah, you gotta do what makes you happy, and like I said,
it pays your rent.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure there's plenty of Fireflies out there.
Oh, for sure. Well, yeah, there's a great Pasadena always has a great G.I. Joe show, and there actually there is one. It's either the weekend before or 2 weeks before, something like that. So I'll be hitting that up. Maybe I'll have Firefly on my mind. Well, Dan, what I've got on my mind for you is killing this Kickstarter, creating G.I. Joe. Listeners, go there, back it. You've got probably about a week left by the time you're hearing this. Please put this over the line, and then let's get that stretch goal. Let's get some nice slipcases.
Yeah,
I think that would be amazing. And Dan's done a lot of work. How many years? What year did you start doing this?
Initially 2009 is when I started really reaching out to a few guys. I think it's 2008, 2009.
15 years, gang. 15 to 16 years of working on this project. Congratulate him by making his Kickstarter go through the moon. That's the best way to send him some congrats. He does really nice stuff. I have a couple of his previous volumes. I'll be one of those guys getting the ones in arrears. And I appreciate you, Dan, very much. I appreciate you coming on Joe on Joe this week.
I appreciate you having me on.
What a pleasure. Well, now you know more about both creating G.I. Joe and Firefly. And Joeing is half the battle.